Faye and I met when I was passing through Colorado on tour with a band at the time called the Sparrow Quartet, which was early in my days of courting with Bela, who I luckily got to play Purdue with a few years back as a duo, now as parents of our little boys. Um, and we, at the time, we were in a band called the Sparrow Quartet, which was with Ben Solee and Casey Dreesen on cello and fiddle and two banjos. And we came together as a band actually to go play in China. Because I was starting to tour there regularly, and I just kept asking friends if they would want to come with me, and that ended up being one of the bands that went over there and played. And we actually did 2 different tours of China over 2 years as a band, and then we decided, hey, let's make this a thing, and so we became a band in the States too, and made 2 records, and started touring. And on one of those tours, a dear friend of mine who's a radio personality and a great musician, Nick Forrester, who lived in Boulder at the time, and Faye also lived in the Boulder. He had seen her play and just thought I needed to meet her. And so he connected us via email, and we thought we'd just trust him and meet each other. And so Faye brought her guzheng and came up in her little old station wagon up to this little schoolhouse in the Pines, up outside of Boulder, Colorado, and we had a house concert as the Sparrow Quartet, and Faye sat in with us, and that was the beginning of our friendship. And back in those days, people emailed each other when they wanted to communicate, so we started our email friendship, and we just kept in touch. And over the years, I came to see her in New York, and then I got to meet her parents in Beijing when I was there at one time, even though she was still back in New York. And then she and her husband, once they were living in Beijing, I visited with them a number of times there. We had shows. Our first duo show that we did was in Beijing, actually, at a literary festival. And then Faye and her husband moved here with their newborn, and their 2.5-year-old. Was Vivi 2.5 when you moved here, or 3 or 4 by then?
Yeah, she was 2.5. Was 3 months old.
Right. And they moved to Nashville, Tennessee, and luckily we've been Nashville neighbors ever since. So, but our friendship, I think, we came from really different backgrounds musically. Obviously, I mean, Faye, extremely trained, and a completely committed, dedicated. Her whole family, her whole culture was built around her, being this amazing prodigy of a musician, and exploring that to great depths. And I was more of this classic privileged American white kid growing up with just getting to choose what I wanted to do, and thinking about what brought me happiness, and what brought me purpose, and throughout that experience, I was never given the feedback that I was some kind of great musician. So I didn't explore that. I didn't think that was even an option. And so she and I have really come at our music from different places. And yet, I think we are both deeply drawn to the power of folk music together. We love the stories of folk music. We love how it relates to our lives, and how it connects us to each other and to humanity, period. So I think we find each other really easily in that space. And I also find Faye's sense of playfulness and willingness to think so creatively about what music can do and how it can exist. It really gets me excited. And I have so much fun being with Faye and playing music. And I should say, despite her being from a background that's very stiff and directed, she just is so open and excited by any stream of inspiration. And it's so fun to be with and be around. And I've really missed her. These last 2 COVID years, we've been being really careful with our families, and it's been hard to be together in person. We've had outdoor play dates and outdoor music hangs together, but not much. It's been a very inward time for me also. So I really do miss that. Yeah. So there's a basic chemistry and a basic excitement just about who Faye is for me that spurred the whole thing on from the very moment I met her. I'd love to hear Faye's perspective.
Yeah, oh yes, it's very much so. Yeah, I want to echo Abby on the first time we met in Boulder, no, north of Boulder. Yeah, she was singing some the very familiar Sichuan folk songs that I grew up hearing as a child, and I was blown away. At the time I had been living in the States for several years, 7 6 7 years. I was certainly missing home. I was going back to Beijing, but only like once a year for about a few weeks. So it's I think the music or the food, or start craving for where you coming from. So when I heard Abby singing in Chinese in the Sichuan dialect, even in the few songs that I was. I was like, wow, I don't need to tell you what this is about, and let's just have fun. So that was very magical beginning. So I think, and then throughout the years, as Abby just described, I think it's really what kept us close is uh, besides our very different music background or upbringing background, is having fun and joy, because life can be really hard, but the music can break that ice in a second. If you hear a piece of a song that, for 3 seconds, that instantly can bring your tears down. And it'll be hard for other art form to do that in 3 seconds. But music can certainly easily 3 seconds tears down. So, that's a very powerful connection. So I think having fun, and also, besides, we sing bilingually, and because of Abby's passion for Chinese culture and Chinese language, it's really fun, because I also know a lot of Chinese operas that must be sung in very different dialect. It's really, and even for Chinese person, it's very difficult to sing. But somehow I was trained, and then I taught Abby, and then Abby started singing with me, and I was like, wow, this is so exciting. In February we'll be singing this one on stage. It's really hilarious and it's fun. It's about the Mulan story. It's really fun, and so she's very open and daring to try these things and to use our voices as percussion as well, not just the. So it opens up a lot of not just the uh, like the academia approach, but it's the ultimate, had to have to use those tools to serve the goal of feeling good, and based on technical stuff, but it's also feeling good. Because where I come from, sometimes when it gets really technical, it can sound a little awful. I myself had to play a lot of that kind of music growing up. So, so that's like the really fun thing playing with Abby for me.